I am traveling today. I have no office. I have no home office. It's all done. We're all moved. So we're traveling right now. So if you don't know, we sold our home, our primary residence in Springfield, Missouri, and we're moving out. We have a second home out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're moving out there from October till May. And so the whole house is gone, packed up. The tractor trailer's moving all the stuff out there. Everything in my office is packed up, moving out there. We're opening up a big, beautiful office in Scottsdale Quarter in North Scottsdale, Arizona here in about 2 weeks. So you guys are going to have to come by if you live in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. So I am in a hotel right now, but I did not want to leave you stranded. What we're going to do today with Josh is we're going to break down his sales process. Now, Josh is a guy who went from making $4 or $5 grand a month, making 25 grand a month. That's a big jump. Okay. Big jump in income. And so we're going to talk about some specific things that we had him do in his sales structure to really get them there. And then you can take what we taught him and you can maybe apply some of it to what you sell. Now, if you are brand new to our Facebook group, because we're going live inside the Facebook group, I am the founder and chairman of an organization called Seventh Level. We're a company that helps people exactly like you watching me here today. We help sales professionals. We help coaches. We help sales executives. We help sales managers. We help entrepreneurs. And we help you by transforming the way you sell by using specific skilled questions and techniques that work with human behavior rather than work against it. There's a massive difference if you don't understand the difference in that, okay? Those are called neuro-emotional persuasion questions, stands for NEPQ. We have to teach you the right tonality that puts your prospects at ease, eliminates sales pressure. Can you imagine that? And get your prospects to want to open up, to actually want to engage with you, okay? And eventually persuade themselves that you have what they're looking for, what they're wanting, changing their situation. Now, along the way, if you want to know more details about how we can help you sell a lot more of your products and services than you are now, like we have for thousands of clients, including Josh, all the way from large Fortune 500 company, we have some clients in there, all the way down to small SMBs, all the way down to individual salespeople just like Josh. If that's you, in the comments section, post hashtag NEPQ. So if you want to learn some of those same skills to make a lot more money with what you sell, in the comment section, post hashtag NEPQ. And either myself, our Vice President Marco, or our CEO Matt Ryder will message you more details to see if we can help you as well. Now, all right, Josh, how are you, man?
Very well, Jeremy. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Man, just hanging out here in this hotel, man. It's crazy. Hopefully the internet will stay strong here for the next 30 minutes. All right, let's find out a little bit more about your situation. You've been a client here for, well over a year, something like that. We recently hired you to sell for some of our done-for-you service accounts. I know that you're selling for Ryan Serhant, who has he's a big real estate mogul in New York City. He's done like $4 billion in real estate over, I think, last year, something like that. And we have an account with him where we sell all of his social media training to realtors, and that's the account you're on, okay? So we're going to talk about a little bit about that, about how we've helped you with that, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you got to sales in the first place. Now, you live over in Scotland, right?
Yep, that is correct.
All right, tell us one thing outside of sales that just most of the people on here would not know about you that's pretty cool.
It's not that much, but yes, I play a lot of sports, and so I play a lot of rugby, a lot of touch rugby. I actually had my first international cap. I think I mentioned about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
we first had this interview scheduled, but yeah, so I have my first played for Scotland.
Yeah, so you played for the national team in Scotland, don't you?
Yeah, first time was 2 weeks ago. So
because so I'm gonna just go out on a limb and assume something, or you're not massively huge. So are you really fast or what?
I'm on the faster side for sure.
Well, you're on the faster side because I'm used to the big rugby dudes, freaking shoulders that are bulging out here, like Dwayne Johnson and Rock or something. So you're one of the fast guys that gets to run the ball. Okay, that's good to know about you. All right, now, if you're on here, because we've got about 62 people watching the live here, about 37 of you are in the Facebook group, the other 30 of you are not in our Facebook group. You're just watching on my personal profile. So I'm going to have Chris on our team post a join link for Sales Revolution. If you want to see lives like this 4 or 5 times a week where we train you and do Q&A so you can sell more, like Josh is, we'll have someone on our team, Chris on our team, post a group join, Sales Revolution. You can join our Facebook group. When you join, there'll be like 2 or 3 question survey so we know what industry you're in, what products you sell, so it gives us an idea of who's in our group, how we can train you better. And then right when you join, we're going to tag you. So check your messenger on your Facebook Messenger. We're going to tag you, and we're going to send over a free training on how to prevent objections from even happening in your prospect's mind. It's Jedi Yoda stuff. Okay, so it's a free 35-minute training. So check your messenger right when you join the Facebook group. All right, Josh. So how long ago did you get in sales? I think it was not pretty long ago, right?
Yeah, not too long ago at all. So I think first sales calls I started taking in 2018.
Okay,
so,
what do you sell specifically? Tell us a little bit of your background, because everybody, when I bring somebody on here, like, even for me to interview anybody on this group, they have to be making at least, 250 to 300,000 a year in sales commissions or more to even be on here. Okay, so you made the cut. Well done. So I think a lot of people, though, when we interview people, they're like, "Oh my gosh, they must have been born with all these persuasion skills, and he just knows exactly what to say." And oh my gosh, like what's going on? Were you born of your mother's womb with like advanced persuasion skills, or how did this all happen?
With the phone in my hand? No. It was the completely the other way around. I think that's when you say there's no born salespeople. Like, I was the epitome of not a born salesperson, and
There
so it's
are
like
zero born salespeople. Let me repeat that to everybody. No one is born a salesperson. When I hear people say, "Oh my gosh, he has the gift of the gab, he was born out of his mother's womb," people who have the gift of the gab are average salespeople at best, because the more you talk, the least you sell. You just sell less the more you talk. Okay, the gift of the gab is an old sales myth, been around for 150 years. You have the gift of the gab, you're not a top sales professional. I can pretty much guarantee that. Keep going, Josh.
Yeah, like I sucked. I sucked so bad. Like, I didn't sell anything for months, and then
I think you started like your own ad agency or something. Just
yeah,
I'm going to start my ad agency, and I got to learn how to sell. But you just like suck.
Yeah. I got finished with university, and like I studied engineering, and that path like really wasn't for me. And then so I got into the whole like online space, and then agency was the first thing that I kind of jumped on, and that's where I started really getting into sales, like cold calling for appointments.
So and you started cold calling, but obviously didn't do well because you didn't make jack. And
yeah,
then
well, I did well on the. I was good at the cold calling part. I wasn't good at the closing part, but so I could get a lot of appointments, but I wasn't closing anything. So I mean, like I closed. I ended up closing a fair bit and making a little bit of money, but not really enough to kind of stay with it. And then I had the opportunity.
So not enough for like a full-time living. It was more like a hobby.
Yeah, and so funny enough, I worked in a bar to save up all the money to go and actually fund that. But then I had an opportunity to join an influencer that I really respect and still very much respect as an appointment setter. And then I think my chops got recognized, quickly moved up to closer, and then that was where I ended up coming across Matt, and then.
Well, that wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking 2020. We're talking what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah. So first high ticket, first call in high ticket was like
so you got in with us a year and a half ago. I think from what I understand from your story, you got into
it's more like 1 year.
And you got into like our beginning level product, like NEPQ 2.0. You did well with that. Then you got into like advanced 3.0. What was it like once you started learning the skills in Advanced 3.0, like how did your prospects start to react to you compared to the way you sold even a year before?
I mean, it was really night and day. I think especially like following the and there's a phrase that you use, which is like peeling back the layers of the onion.
Yeah.
And that's just exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And especially like as you taking someone through problem awareness, solution awareness, and then down into consequence, when you're able to do that rapidly and get the quick pivots of emotion, it's like there, and it's really interesting because something that you just said in the introduction there just really resonated with me this time. Was like something that works with human behavior. And it's really interesting because when you understand the phases really well, your prospects start to go there before you even ask the question.
Yeah.
And so just like
they open up, want to engage. So you started seeing like your prospects open up to you, starting to engage. What's sort of happening like with your percentages of like closes? Because I think you just posted something earlier like, hey man, before I got into this training, I saw these testimonials, like, you know, because we have thousands. I mean, we're almost 4,000, literally. We're like 3,975 or something. It's we count them daily as they come in. We have somebody that just counts them. That's their full-time job. No, not their full-time job. We have somebody that counts them as they come in per day. I'm just joking. So being one of those, you just posted one, so you count as a testimonial. But you said in there that once you got into like before you got into 3.0, you just didn't believe it was even possible to close that high. Why was that?
I mean, it was just so far out of my level of comprehension. You know, like I was used to, so like I had closed for short periods of time at like up to around 40-50% for very short periods of time. But the consistent,
that's pretty good for your industry that you're in, because I know you're like in the high ticket industry, the high ticket space.
That was
pretty good. You know, if somebody's closing 40%, they're a top person in that industry.
There's very brief periods of time, but consistently more, it was like 20-30%. So it's just a lot more like it was good, but it's not like wow, you know.
It wasn't great. So what triggered you to believe that, wow, I mean, if all these thousands of other people are doing this, then why the hell I can't do it? Like, what triggered you to start looking at that?
It was really just hearing you speak, you know. And just like a lot of it just resonated very well with a lot of different experiences that I'd kind of had.
Meaning?
And I'm sorry?
Meaning?
Yeah, like I can't remember any specific ones, but they were like just multiple aha moments that I got, and I was like,
me over and over and over. So you get into 3.0, you start crushing it, you start getting trained by Matt, you know, more of our advanced inner circle stuff as well. You kind of went through that. And then I believe we hired.
Yeah. I was very, very, that was wonderful.
Yeah, so we hired you. You sell for, you know, one of our accounts, our Done For You sales services, Ryan Serhant. You know, he's got a brand, you know, obviously good, but it's not like when you call everybody, they're just like, oh, here's my credit card. I mean, Ryan's really cool. How do I pay? Right?
No, it's a surprisingly tough account. There's a lot of people, a lot of very good sales reps that I really look up to have jumped on that account and not had. Like it's very nuanced, especially to do it in one call.
100%. All right. So let's talk about your sales process. Let's talk about connecting questions. Give us an example. Like before you started learning NEPQ, how did you start a sales call? Like what was one thing you said that you look at it now and you're just like, why the hell would I say that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this today, actually. Looking back, it's like you look at some other people's scripts in different industries and different companies, and like you see people being like, okay, cool. So Jeremy, at the end of this call, there's 3 things that you might say to me. You can say yes, you can say no, but I don't want you to say anything like, let me think, like any of this stuff. And I'm just like, who comes up with this, you know? Like
I mean, it works on like 10% of your prospects, but the other 90%, they will never open up to you and share with you what's really going on in the world. When you set some type of frame that at the end of the call, they know they have to say yes or no. You are triggering sales resistance in your prospect's mind. And most of the time, they're not going to open up unless they're just a lay down sale. So the whole call, you're having to fight against sales resistance when you don't have to. That's a technique that, like I talk about, works against human behavior. Whoever came up with that doesn't understand how humans behave and how our mind actually works. All right, so what's a connecting question that we taught you to use now? Like, how have we flipped that for you? And what's just one example? I'm not going to have you give all 4 or 5 of your connecting questions that we taught you, but like, what's one example?
Sure. So my personal favorite is like more of like a goals focused question. So, okay, cool. So ultimately, when you, from what you saw from the ad and where I guess like the reason why you booked the call, ultimately, what are you really looking to achieve by possibly XYZ? changing your.
And what do people do when you ask that question?
It depends on the prospect, but like it just gives you a very clear direction of where they want the call to go and the agenda that they want from the call.
Yeah. So they feel like they feel like they're in control, but really who's in control? You are, sales professional. They don't think that though. That's what you want. All right. Situation questions. Before you got into NEPQ, situation questions basically where we find out their present situation, like what the hell's really going on. They're factual questions. What was an example of that type of question you used before you started learning NEPQ that you're like, shit, I can't believe I ever asked that question?
I'm not too sure in the situation, any specific ones that are like red flags from specifically in the situation phase. But there was one that really kind of changed the game for me, especially when you start to segue into more mindset stuff. Is what caused you to do it that way?
Why is that so key asking that question? Because with what you're selling, you're selling to real estate agents who want to get more listings and to get better leads to get more listings, right? So they need a social media, predominance. They need to brand themselves. And so when you're asking them like what they're currently doing now to get new listings and leads, and they tell you, and then you ask them, well, what caused you to do it that way? What's the psychological impact?
Yeah, it's almost like they get that. What did cause me? The guy who just taught me real estate when I started, who was only making like 80K a year, taught me that. And I'm like, okay.
They tell themselves like, oh, it's almost like they have a self-realization moment, like, shit, I'm not really sure if I'm doing it that way. Yeah. And that makes them more open to what? Change. All selling and all sales is about one thing only. It's about change. That's what selling is. If anybody asks you the definition of what selling is, it's about one thing only. It's about change. It's about how good you are at getting your prospect to view in their mind that by changing their situation, purchasing your product or service is far less riskier for them than for them to do nothing at all, stay in the status quo, problems stay the same, and nothing ever changes, which is more risky. See, sales is all about change. Take that to bank, everybody. All right, let's talk about your problem awareness question. So we'll give an example of like a problem awareness question that you use now, but take us back before you knew anything about NEPQ, post NEPQ world, before you went through our 3.0 virtual training courses. What was a question you used to use or something you would say to find out their problems?
It's the classic.
What'd you say?
The classic. So this is really interesting. So you lead with a problem, like your connecting question is a problem awareness question. Right. That's how it certainly used to be with a lot of other, like, so okay, cool. So just to get this call started, like what's not working in your business right now?
Yeah, and what would people typically say when you ask that like that?
Nothing's not working. Like, I'm doing great or whatever,
Yes, so you're assuming they have a problem, right?
Yeah.
And now we all know they have problems because they either booked on your calendar or they're an outbound lead. Even if they're a cold call, I'm assuming that there's something is going on. Nobody has everything 100% perfect, right? But when we just assume and we're like slap them in the face with that, a lot of people do what? Well, they push back. It's just human behavior. It's, subconsciously they're going to push back with that. All right. Now, what's a problem awareness question we've taught you to use now to elicit more of their problems?
Okay. So yeah, I guess touching back on the situation question. So what caused you in that one? Oh, I don't know. I guess the guy who got me into real estate, who's making 80 years, taught you that. Okay. And so do you like the systems you have for XYZ right now? It's like, I guess not,
Yeah. So that first problem awareness question is important. So you've been using this technique that, your realtor friend taught you a few years ago. Do you like the results you're getting? See how I did that, everybody? Like, see how I slowed down when I said, do you like the results you're getting? Now, why would I pause there? Well, Josh, why would I pause there rather than be like, you've been using those type of techniques for the last 5 years. Do you like what you're doing? There's a big difference in that.
Yeah, to using the verbal pausing to get them to draw you in closer.
Yeah, we're using the verbal pause for them to think deeper about the question I just asked. If I just say it very fast, it's like a knee-jerk question, and they're going to give me a knee-jerk answer because they're not going to deeply think about it. It's like if I want to buy, let's say, a suit, and I walk into the suit store, and the salesperson comes over and says, "Hey, sir, welcome to the store. How can I help you?" Just looking. See, that's a knee-jerk question that gives me a knee-jerk response back, because I'm so used to that. Everybody asking me that question, right? Any person is walking into a retail store. So we want to stay away from like knee-jerk quick questions, because they think about it very quickly and you don't get any, you're just getting surface level answers. All right, let's move on to, that was a good one. Let's move on to solution awareness questions. Solution awareness questions help us find out what the prospect's future is going to look like once all these problems are solved. We call that their objective state, like their objective state. Okay, here's their current situation, their current state. Here's their future, their objective state. What's the gap in between? All of these problems that Josh helps them see they have during that conversation. He doesn't tell them they have problems. He asks certain questions that allow them to see how bad the problems really are, because they probably didn't know they were that bad when they first got on the call. Your questions help them elicit that in their mind. NEPQ, that's what it does. That's why it converts 10 times more better than anything else out there. In any industry, it doesn't matter. Now, what's the solution awareness question? Like, how did you, like before NEPQ, how did you get them to see what their future would look like? Or did you even get them to see what it looked like?
Yeah, I guess in some instances, not as much, but
what would you say? What would something you're like, oh crap, I can't believe I used to say that. It sounds so salesy.
I can't think of any really cringy ones off the top of my head. I'm sure I could probably dig you out some, but yeah.
All right, so nothing cringeworthy. All right, let's focus on what you do now. Like, what's, I'm not going to have you give all of your solution awareness questions we've taught you, but just give us one in your sales structure that you use, and then explain why you use it.
Yeah, really. I mean, just like you said, it's all about like the objective state, especially that people are looking their ideal criteria to allow them to achieve.
Yeah.
And so it's really like, so for instance, Will Oddams, who is one of the top guys in Sniper, he has a lot of really good exercises around that. For instance, mirror questions, which like help you edit the question that you're asking a lot more rapidly on the go. So I don't necessarily have like specific ones for, there's different ones that you use for different customer demographics, for instance. But sure. Again, it's always about getting the state and then getting the emotion as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like one of the questions that really gets them to focus on their objective state is, something like this. So, and I'll just kind of, explain it here. So, and we'll do it industry specific for what you sell with like social media training for real estate agents, right? So, okay, so let's say that we're able to come in, we're able to help, brand you, get your social media followers up to XYZ level, like you talked about, which, like you had mentioned, is going to get you up to, let's say, 300,000 in net income next year in your real estate business. Because now you're talking about doubling your income. What would you do with the extra money coming in, though? And why would I slow down? Why would I pause there? Okay, then they're going to say, oh, I would go buy a car. I'd get out of debt. I'd buy my kids, college tuition, whatever it is. Now, that's all logical answers. And do human beings make decisions on logic or emotion? Emotion, right? 100%. So then after they tell me that, I say, okay, but you being able to do those things, because it's one thing to actually, want to do them compared to actually doing them. But you being able to do that, what would that do for you personally? See how I pause there? See, that makes that question like right in their face, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it would relieve so much stress. Hold on, what do you mean by stress? Oh my gosh, you have no idea the stress that I feel. Whoa. Take me back. What do you mean by all the stress you've been feeling? Oh my gosh. And I'm helping them relive their pain, which drives urgency for them to change their situation now, not later, which for the most part eliminates the I want to think it over objection, because they just told themselves why they have to change now rather than doing it later. It's hard for them to come back and say, well, let me think about this. Let's get back together in 2 months. No, it's not on their mind. See how that works? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how it works. And it's really genius as well. Like what you did there, like reverse engineering back into pain-free consequence from that emotion.
And then once they tell us what their objectives are and how it's going to make them feel and how much their life's going to be different, once all of these things are solved and they get what they want, we then want to rip it away from them by asking what's called a consequence question. Consequence question allows them to see what the ramifications are going to be if they don't do anything, if they stay in the status quo. instead of purchasing what you're offering, which is more risky. What's one consequence question that you use?
My favorite is I think one of Marco's structures that I picked up off him. I guess like, what do you feel could be the possible consequences in terms of XYZ goals that you've got if you don't change blah 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 and continue for the next 2, 3, 5 years? Like, what would that look like?
What do people typically do when you ask that question?
So there's a couple of classic answers that you'll get, like, "Oh no, I'm not going to change. I'm going to change, man." And a couple of these other.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you can, like, there's a lot of, like, you do have to have a couple of other, I guess, like, rounds in the chamber.
Well, it's like this. Well, I mean, John, what are you going to do if nothing changes, though? Like, if you keep getting the same amount of listings you are now for the next, 3, 6, even 12 months from now, what happens then? See, it's like you're skeptical when you ask that question, and it's just in their face, like, "Oh no, I'm going to do something about it." Okay, so it's important for you to do something. Then that's what I really needed to know, because based on what you told me, and then boom, we're right into the transition.
Yeah, and that's one thing that blew me away with any.
How did that blow you away when you learned that?
Like not even just, so obviously the consequence, right? But the tonality that you use, and especially like you mentioned the word skeptical there, and that is so key. Like, you can't like when you get that mastered, especially with the facial expressions that like in the body language, like you can just, people will just like talk about night and day from other sales worlds. It's like people are just like eating out of your hand. And it's
we're basically getting your prospects. So our clients have that much skill set in their tonality, in their in their body language. Even if they're on the phone, they're still using the same tonality and the same body language, because your body language affects how your tone comes across even on a phone call. Most people don't know that. You just sat here asking questions like this, stiff board, instead of like, but what are you going to do if nothing changes, though? Like, if you keep, see, that affects the way I move. Like, my body language affects my tone. It affects everything. And most people don't understand that, okay? But especially if you're on Zoom, or if you're in a meeting, a boardroom meeting, or at a door, or, on a cold call, it doesn't matter. You have to have your body language and your tonality right. And that's what we teach in advanced, NEPQ 3.0. How has your tonality and your body language changed since you've come into the program?
A lot. It's certainly changed a lot. I think the body language for me, I still obviously use a lot of the tonality in more so in specific areas, but the body language is a huge. Like, the body language is for me has been probably the biggest over Zoom.
If you don't have the right body language, if you don't have the right tone, even if you ask the perfect questions, you won't close the same percentages.
Yeah.
Your tonality and your body language is over half of your sales success.
Oh yeah. And I hadn't realized that kind of beforehand. And I think when you see, because as well, it's like, if you think about it from like a skeptical perspective, right? And you break that down. And if I'm skeptical of you, what do you want to do to me? You want to help me understand.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, so they just, people will just open up. He's like, what? Sorry, I don't quite understand. Oh, well, let me help you understand.
Exactly, because salespeople are not skeptical. Now, high-level, high-paid consultancies or consultants are very skeptical. That's why they're the experts. So if you're just like, "Oh, really? Oh, that sounds nice," and you're just not skeptical any part of the call, they just view you as a non-expert. They view you as just another salesperson who's trying to sell them something. And they just throw you over here on the corner with all these other pushy salespeople trying to sell them something. And then they just, waffle around with you, lead you on a little bit, and they control the sales game. If you want to learn how to control the sales game, if you want to learn the sales process, you have to learn the right skills. Because here's my one guarantee I will give everybody on here right now. If you don't learn these skills that we're talking about with Josh, your competition is going to learn them. NEPQ is getting out there. I mean, we've already trained 120-some thousand salespeople in the first 2.5 years. Next year, we'll probably train more just in the next 6 months. This is getting out there. Your competition is going to learn these skills. If you are competing against Josh right now to call that same prospect, who the hell do you think is going to win that account? Josh, 99.9% of the time. That's because he has the skills. So if you don't have those same type of skills, you are going to get left behind 100% because your competition is going to learn those skills 100%. Josh, any last words of advice? Actually, before we do that, let's talk about commitment questions, because then we're going to transition. We're going to go into a presentation, because you do a 1-call close. But if you do a 2-call close or a 3-call close or a 4-call close, or maybe it's a more B2B complex selling environment, we train lots of people in that. That's the world I came from as well, besides high ticket and other industries, B2C and B2B. That's why I know like both like the back of my hand and the differences. But if you're in B2B, it could be the next step is really a commitment question to get them to book a demo. It could be the next step is to book a time to meet with the board. It could be the next step is to book a time with, their head software engineer to go over a proposal. I mean, it just depends on what you sell. But with you, you're pretty much a 1-call close. You're going to present back what they said they wanted and how Ryan's program is going to solve their problems and get them where they want to go. And then you ask what are called commitment questions, or like close. Yes. What did you used to say to close? I know you have to remember that. Give us your salesy closing thing you used to do.
What do we have? We had, the classic assumptive close, the option close.
What do we do? Just tell us.
Sure. Yeah. So, okay, cool. So, just are you Visa, Amex, or MasterCard? It's always a classic one, just assume the sale. Awesome. So are you looking to go for the 7K option or for the 5K option?
What would most of your prospects say unless they were just golden?
They'd retreat, they'd retract, they'd pull out, and you'd end up triggering objections. And that's actually something that I think is really, really interesting as well with NEPQ, is that when you don't trigger, like a lot of I think the reason why people don't sell, I think you just mentioned as well, like the reason why people don't sell like more than half of their prospects is because they create the sales pressure that creates the smokescreen objections that removes the contact from the salesperson.
Buyers are only liars because of the way you're communicating to them causes them to not trust you, and they lie to you. That is something that is your salesperson's fault, not the buyer's fault. They're only lying because they don't trust you because of the way you're selling to them. That's just something that can be learned, where you don't have to have them lie to you, that they'll open up to you. I never understood that. Saying pisses me off. Oh, buyers are liars. That's why I can't sell anything this week. No, you just suck. You just don't know the right questions to ask. You don't understand human behavior. You're selling like it's 1925. It's 2021. You got to learn the more advanced skills. Buyers have changed. Prospects have changed. You just haven't caught up to it. But if you don't learn the skills, you're done. Put a fork in it. People like Josh will come in and take your job. Okay, so give us a commitment question you use now.
Well, with regards to achieving XYZ goals, I guess, do you feel like this could be the answer for you?
Yeah. Do you feel like this could be the answer for you?
Yeah.
See how I pause there? Boom. And then what do people typically say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're either going to say, "Oh yeah, absolutely," or they're going to say, "Oh, I really do," but, and then they're going to throw out maybe an objection, like, "I just don't know if I have the money," or whatever, and that's fine. If they say, "But I really do, Josh, but I just don't have the money," well, yeah, and that's not a problem. Money aside, why do you feel like it is though? See how we did that? Okay, and then they say, "Oh, it's because of this and because of that," and then we're going to take them through the process of getting them to overcome the money objection, because that's easy. We teach all that in advanced NEPQ 3, but that's in all the modules. But most of the time, they'll come back and say, "Oh, I really do. It's just, wow." Hold on. Why do you feel like it is, though? See, skeptical, right? And they're like, "Well, it is because of X and Y and Z and A and B and C." And what are they doing? They're selling themselves even more and double committing why they feel like they have to have what you're offering.
And that right there, that last committing question, because I come from one of the biggest books that I kind of grew up on in sales was spin selling, and so understanding the theory behind that and what that question actually elicits is just like, when I saw that going through the training, my mind was just like, and yeah, like that is so powerful.
It's so true. All right. Hey, any last words of advice for our listeners today, my man? Good interview.
I mean, it's just like Jeremy said, like we're getting bigger and bigger. This is kind of the golden age of NEPQ where we've got the massive first movers advantage. I say first movers, there's already 4,000 testimonials, but first movers advantage is still
already getting left behind. Yes.
Yeah, it's still a blue ocean, which just makes these skills even more effective, and sharper.
So 5 years from now, completely different story. Everybody will have these skills. So if you want to move forward, you want to learn how we can help you sell a lot more. We have over 20 different training programs now. There's no excuse not to learn advanced skills to sell more. You're going to work the same amount of hours. Why not sell 2 to 3 times more than you are now? Because that tends to make you a lot more money. A little bit over a year ago, completely different situation financially now. Makes a lot more money, can play a lot more rugby for his Scotland team than he could before. He can buy much better runners, he can buy much better sweats, as we call them in the United States, and hoodies, whatever he wants to do, joggers, whatever he wants.
Personal trainers, all that stuff as well. Certainly helps.
Personal trainers. He's got all the cash to do it. Now, if you're on my personal Facebook group and you're in sales, or you're a coach, or you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, if you want to persuade anybody to do anything you want, if you want to persuade your kids to go to bed at night on time, or if you're an attorney who wants to persuade your judge that you're talking to that your client's innocent, I don't care. If you're a politician who wants to persuade your voters to actually vote for you, then you can join our Facebook group. Chris will throw a Facebook group link in there, Sales Revolution. Join for free. Josh, thanks for being on, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for your magical NEPQ system. It's really changed my life. So
you're a savage, man. I'm just waiting for you to even get up higher where I can call you a legend. I don't just call out names for nothing. You're a savage. You made it to savage level at that income level. Now, once we get you up past 50, 60 grand a month in commissions, that's when I'm going to label you a legend. So let's keep working hard.
100%. Thanks very much, Jeremy.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're gonna help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.